Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the cargo panel segment of the Connect Caribe Stakeholder Consultation Forum. This session is dedicated to exploring the critical role of transportation and logistics in enhancing the movement of goods across the Caribbean, with the potential to access, as you've just heard, 80 million strong Caribbean market. We want to contribute to the leveraging Connect Caribe to meet the 25 by 2025 food security initiatives, targets by the Caribbean governments, as we strive towards economic development. So today's discussions focus on key challenges and opportunities in the supply chain, logistics solutions, custom processes, agricultural policies, and financial support, transportation and logistics, the customs officials who are here, government representatives on agriculture policy, regional economics, suppliers of goods and agricultural produce, finance experts. Together, they will provide insights and strategies to help SMEs and agricultural businesses thrive in the interconnected Caribbean market. Panel will look at the role of Connect Caribe in enhancing cargo movement and supporting the agriculture sector across the Caribbean, among other endeavors. So let's delve into the solutions and possibilities of transforming cargo movement across the region, fostering collaboration, innovation, and sustainable growth for all stakeholders. Joining me on stage is Brendan Mohammed. He is the president of the cargo division of the newly formed private sector-led Connect Caribe. Let's welcome President Brendan Mohammed to the stage to make his presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, all. So thanks, Jennifer, for keeping my introduction short compared to Dr. Thomas and Dr. Patrick Antoine. Valuable contribution from both of those gentlemen. As clearly stated by them, there are the studies done, we have the research on books, we have done multiple years of everything paperwork oriented. My purpose here today, and we decided to do with a little extra twist, is oriented around the action part of our platform. So I want to show you today what we have ready to go, what we have been doing in the Caribbean, just not with this right amount of cooks in the kitchen, to make reference to Dr. Ambassador's analogy. And I do think right now we have the correct cooks and chefs in the kitchen to have the desired outcome that we want to have today. Before I get started on that, I just want to give a brief history on Rams Logistics for those who don't know. So we are a third-party logistics company headquartered in Trinidad. We started as a parent company in custom brokerage and freight forwarding back in 1985, and evolving with the market in the Caribbean, with North America, we moved into the realm of freight forwarding on a big scale for oil and gas clients, commercial clients, agriculture clients, the groceries, supermarkets, and then we drove that straight to the point of third-party logistics. So we source goods, we store them in our warehouses located in Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname, etc. And we operate in each island in the Caribbean, either through our own offices or through the assistance of agencies and agents, for example, in Barbados. But hopefully soon we'll have our own office in Barbados, as facilitated by Dr. Thomas. So soon we have big things to come. The core purpose, or the true reason why I do think this consortium will work, boils down to the people that are involved. So in Rams Logistics, we have an inert need built into us for improving the quality of life in the Caribbean. That is something that has been instilled in us from our CEO from since 1985 to today. And I will always draw reference to the point. In 1985, when we started, we had 10 employees in a small office in Trinidad. And part of caring for the people in that office, part of wanting to ensure that those people had a good quality of life, our CEO ensured that every Friday, lunch was provided to the staff, an hour was given, and he would sit with them and hear any of their concerns, provide a meal for them, and really treat them as part of a family and a unit in that organization. Today, in 2024, we stand at 1,000+ employees throughout the region, and every Friday, they still do lunch in every single office in the Caribbean. And whether it's the CEO present or the country manager or any lead for that region, they sit with the team and have lunch and discuss and give the team the opportunity to bring forth any problems, any concerns. And that's how we really have that ingrained in our culture. That existing here is the drive for Rams Logistics in this organization to really see an improvement in the quality of life in the Caribbean. And we know it could be done. We have so many intelligent people in the Caribbean, the skill sets throughout the entire region. In each location that we operate in, we have no one hired other than the locals. The locals run the business there. They are the country managers. They hire locals. And not once we ever had to outsource any labor or any skill set because it's such a brain dense nation we have here in the Caribbean. There's nothing that we can do, especially if we come together. Imagine all that we have accomplished so far, and we have done that on half of a united front, I would say. Truly coming together and connecting these regions via the Connect Caribe consortium and the initiative here could open opportunities, I think, that we didn't even think was possible 5 years ago, 2 years ago, especially coming out of COVID. So to zone more into the actual action part of things, instead of standing and talking and letting you know what our intentions are, I wanted to give you a demo of the technology side of our operations. Because I do believe that will facilitate us transforming how trade is done in the region and really facilitate the connection of all the islands in the Caribbean. On the technology side, what I will show today is from a customer's perspective. So we'll move from the perspective of goods moving from Barbados and being imported into Trinidad and how that customer could log on to the website, how they can have visibility into what is available to order, what they have ordered, the status of it, where it is located, how long until it arrives, how much days it is sitting in customs, when they can expect to receive it either at their warehouse or their grocery or at their home. Now you might ask, what does this do? This technology, this visibility now allows small and medium businesses to make predictions, to forecast, to expand their business, to move into the realm of new markets, to add value to the products that they are already providing through the data analytics, through running the numbers and knowing where are the peak seasons, where are the high imports, where are the high exports, the timing of the season. Due to the duration of travel from island to island, we know now we are limited by either going north and coming back into the Caribbean or very strict timelines for moving goods in the Caribbean. Bringing that down to 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and 4 days, the agricultural opportunities that exist, the cold storage transportation that opens, and the quick transport between the islands could really, really open up a significant corridor for the transport of agriculture, which I think is so important for our food security in our great nation here. So at this time, I'll share my screen. It's a very interactive approach whereby I will actually log on to the live system. Please note as a full disclaimer, all data was flushed and then auto-generated. So there's no actual sensitive data from any one company existing here. The data itself is just generic, but the system is the live system that we will be showing today. So just allow me a couple of moments to get IT to allow me to share, and then we'll jump straight into it. I mean, I think I could do it without the demo, but it wouldn't be as good. No, we just hold on a couple more moments while IT sort us out, please. Thank you. Yeah. You just need to enable sharing because it is safe. All right, fantastic. All right, good to go. Thank you for your patience. So the technology side of our operations, we try to make it as customer friendly and user friendly as possible because we know buying is a big, big thing in our culture, especially when you're going into a new project, new operations, new territories, etc. So the interface that we have built is you could access it through any web browser. So you just go on the internet. It's a simple email and password to log on to your account. And what your account allows you to do is see everything specific to your operations. So again, in this case, we are focusing on the customer side of the operations, but this is built to facilitate the supplier side of the operations. It is built to tie everything together so the operations manager of the vessel can have an idea of how many containers he can expect today, tomorrow, Friday, etc. So I'll now log in to the live system and you'll get an idea of what it will look like. This would be a good time to mention that our systems, our software, everything we build in Rams Logistics to facilitate all our logistics operations, whether it be from the Far East into the region, the UK into the region, Miami within the region, imports and exports, we build it in-house. And we do so by having a team of 30 software engineers on board, which is pretty uncommon for a logistics company, but we figured to really have that synergy existing and to really grow into an international and global brand and tie everything together, we need a strong technology backing, especially with the introduction of artificial intelligence within the past couple of years and the amazing tool that is. We invested significantly in our software engineering and research and development department. And again, all 30 of our software engineers were hired from the University of West Indies campuses throughout the region. So on your screen, you see the main thing, which we call a dashboard, and you would see CC360. Now, what does CC360 mean? We call that our customer care 360 module, which means we are attending to all the needs of our customers, and on the supplier side, of course, the supplier. And the 360, of course, giving you the entire picture of all the aspects of your operations. So on your dashboard, again, because we build these systems ourselves, we do the coding, we can display any information that the customer or supplier deems necessary or would like to see on their dashboard. So in this case, what we deem important here is how many orders are at the supplier. So again, I am in Trinidad and I'm ordering from Barbados. Okay, I placed 28 orders. Are 28 of those orders ready to go in Barbados? As you can see here, yes, all 28 are ready to go. How many are ready to ship? Do we have the right amount of trucks available? Do we have the inland transportation? Can all 28 leave today? In this case, no, only 22 is ready to ship and be able to road transport to the port. Now, when it gets there, how many of my goods are currently in transit from my previous orders or even this order? And you have that number reflected here being 2. Now, again, the next step of that is how many of my goods from my previous orders are in Trinidad and just awaiting customs clearance. And you have on your dashboard here that reflected as 5. Now, again, this is just your dashboard and your overview. The details of all of this I will walk through now. Very high level and very simple, just to give you all an idea of how we run our operations. And this is the same technology and software that we use to run our internal operations. So our HR, our finance, everything is backed and run on this software. So it's easy to connect everything. Now, you might wonder why I mentioned our HR and finance being tied to this. The beauty of this is it can connect itself to any system through API connections. That means when the lovely Dr. Anthony Hickson provides his e-commerce presentation and platform, that e-commerce orders just tie straight into this. And when you place your order, you could then track it each step of the way to here, straight to the point of your invoicing, and when it shows up at your door or at your warehouse. So moving on to the next module, as you can see, you just navigate by the tabs. We move to the quotation module. What is this? So you would put forward your purchase orders, you would put forward your orders. Let's say you order 20 items from Barbados. Each one of those orders will be reflected here. It would have a designated purchase order number. You would have where it's leaving. Because again, As a customer-based platform, you might order goods from Barbados, from Guyana, from Grenada, from St. Lucia, etc. So here it gives you the full summary of all your purchase orders that you have inputted. When these orders are placed, we now move to the orders tab. Now, if you draw reference to the dashboard, we have 3 steps here. So what is at the supplier? So let's say you order from a hardware in Barbados. What is at the supplier in the hardware and ready to go? Here you have all your information again, your purchase order, numbers, all your documentation, and most important for planning your business and knowing how to forecast and plan, you have your lead time variance, letting you know how long until it is ready, how long until it is shipped out, when you can expect it to arrive at the warehouse, when you can expect it to be shipped, and when it will be delivered to Trinidad or your point of destination. You have what is en route to the warehouse. You could actually see, okay, it is on its way to the warehouse. And then you have your stock level of what has arrived at the warehouse or what has arrived at the port. From the orders view, we move to the freight shipments view. Here, this gives you the opportunity to see what is sitting at the port and ready to be shipped to you, regardless of where you are. Again, the beauty of this is you actually have your departure date here, so you know these goods will be leaving in 6 days. We cater for not only the ocean aspect of Connect Caribe, but when we expand into the air aspect, hopefully one day, this is already built into the system to track both of those avenues. When the goods now leave your point of origin or where you order from, we move into your clearance view. This view reflects everything that has arrived in the country, in this example, Trinidad and Tobago, and how long until it is cleared through customs and then provided to you. Now, to clear customs, you must go through your typical custom processes in every location in the Caribbean. Here we have an ETA for how long that process will take based on the shipment, based on the documentation that was provided, based on any pre-clearances, etc. And the beauty of it, it also gives you a status of everything that normally keeps back clearances in each one of those locations. So whether it's your license, whether it's your customs payment, whether it's your freight release, you have access to all of those items here. Additionally, you have access to all your documentation that was automatically uploaded here. Finally, when the goods are cleared and delivered to you, you have access to all your invoices to make your payments on the module here. And through the e-commerce platform, through the dollar networks and paying any similar national currencies, you could actually make those payments live on the system as well. So the idea is you don't need to leave the login. You don't need to bring sources of information from anywhere else into it. You can manage your entire supply chain. You can manage your entire supplier relationship. You could expand your business. You could grow your business. And on the customer side, you can manage everything that is coming to you. So I'll speak a bit more on the benefit of this. For small farmers, for small and medium enterprises, they may be producing goods and exporting at a certain level, at a certain percentage, just based on the market that is existing today. Enter a market or avenue that provides a lower shipping rate. Now, what does that do for them? It gives them the opportunity to increase production, but for which product? To which island? The frequency, the scheduling. That is the beauty of incorporating everything in the technology now and using the data analytics and the trends to help build those small farmers, those medium farmers into expanding, one, what they are already doing, but also offering the opportunity to add value added to their goods. Now, when they have set schedules, when they know what numbers they can account for their exports, in addition to just exporting those products, they can start to fillet that fish. They can start to package that fish in their country and now export it. And do they have the avenue to do so? Absolutely. We have been running reefer containers, which are cold storage containers, throughout the Caribbean, from Miami into the Caribbean, from all locations. Now, when we add these value-added opportunities to these existing small and medium businesses, you create an entirely new market in all of these areas. It might not be a huge $1 million or $1 billion market in each area, but it will add up. Because for somebody to fillet that fish and package it, now you need somebody to add packaging to that entire length of that supply chain. That's a new business That is somebody having revenue and income coming into their household, contributing to more households. That is putting food on somebody's table that wasn't there before. In addition to this, increases in volumes to our exports and imports will only boost our food security and agricultural trade in the region. Now we know what that could do for our economy. We know the quality of goods that we produce here. The quality of things either grown or produced in Guyana, St. Lucia, Grenada, Trinidad is of superior quality to what they have in the States. That's why they buy things from us. But in addition to everything there and how our money and cash flow does, most of our money leaves. But now, when we start to trade more internally within the Caribbean, we have that money staying in the region and circulating. And going back to Dr. Thomas' point about how much we spent on food over the last couple of years, it's a ridiculous amount that we could be keeping in here. The added benefit to that, what we truly believe could come out of running this from a logistics standpoint efficiently, is the export market as well. When we increase our volumes and we improve trade, especially in the agriculture realm in our country, we are now tapping into an entirely new market of export into not only North America, but other neighboring areas as well. And that will actually bring foreign exchange into the Caribbean and not just take our foreign exchange. Now, of course, this will not come easy. We will have some gaps, we will have some challenges, which we will be happy to address during the panel discussions, where we will welcome questions from the crowd and from anyone online.
We want to welcome to the stage Comptroller of Customs of Barbados, Mr. Owen Holder. Supply Chain Specialist and Lead Consultant for Baval, Gavin Baval, UWI lecturer as well. Ms. Natalie O'Sandifer, she's attorney at law and the head of WMAC Barbados, Women in Maritime Barbados. And we have standing in for the Postmaster General, Joanne Busby. Unfortunately, she can't be here this morning, but could we have her, Mr. Benjamin from the Barbados Postal Service? Okay, so let's get straight into the discussions relative to cargo, and we will open up the floor as well for additional points from Ambassador Thomas, Dr. Patrick Antoine as well, and Ms. Rudy Ramprasad from Ramps Logistics. Good morning, our esteemed panelists. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. So just the objectives of the broad framework for this cargo panel. We want to look at leveraging Connect Caribe to optimize supply chain and logistics in the region. We're going to be addressing the main regulatory challenges in customs and how they can be addressed. And we're also looking at the alignment of agricultural policies to support regional trade and the movement of goods. We want to look at economic benefits of an efficient cargo transportation system bolstered by Connect Caribe operations, and what does this mean for regional economies. And we want to fully ventilate the leveraging of Connect Caribe to optimize supply chain and logistics. And we want to find out what are the main regulatory challenges in customs and how they can be addressed. And we want to look at how agricultural policies can be aligned, taking into consideration the role of Connect Caribe as a transshipment hub to support regional trade and movement of produce. So let's go straight into our question. Our first question is in transportation and logistics solutions. And this question is for Mr. Gavin Baval. What are the key challenges in the current supply chain for Caribbean SMEs? And how do you believe Connect Caribe can address these issues?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here among these very highly regarded professionals in the field. I think when we look at our regional supply chains, particularly when we look at agriculture, the phrase comes to mind, professionals at samples. We have a industry that has been bogged down by scale, right? We go to regional shows, we go to international shows, and while our producers and manufacturers are able to deliver wonderful, high quality samples, they're not at the scale that allows them to leverage our current logistics infrastructure, one that requires a certain minimum quantity. That doesn't take away from the quality of the products that are being offered. And I see some of the producers here that do quite well, but for them to fill a container, it's a huge task, right? One of the benefits I see coming out of this initiative is the sort of the disruption of that status quo, where persons are able to access just the right amount of services, freight services that they need based on where they are operationally. One of the other challenges that I find is the infrastructure. While we're building out now the infrastructure to move, we're also building out the cold chain solutions. And as Rams would have mentioned earlier, you know, they have that ability. One of the challenges that I find is that when we look at our cold chain within the region, outside of banana, which has been done very well, we seem to be missing the mark, right? Cold chain goes beyond just the freight, just the storage at the port. It's cold. The cold chain begins at the post-harvest process, right? So while we are enabling the movement of this, there needs to be policy support to develop the capacity at the producer level and the harvesting level to make sure that standards are being met and that the shelf lives of these products are being extended with the facilities that are being offered here. While I can talk ad nauseum about this, I'll add one more bit. When we look at the movement within the region, one of the major stumbling blocks as well is the inconsistency or the misalignment of our SPS standards. We've had situations where product coming out of Guyana going into Trinidad, or product coming out of Barbados going into Trinidad, or product coming out of Trinidad coming into Barbados has been held up because not necessarily that the standards are not being met, but the standards have not necessarily been clearly ventilated for both the supplier and the producer to understand what is required and to make sure that those processes and those documentations have been aligned. And I'm very welcomed to have the Controller of Customs, Mr.
You're getting
Holder
better,
here.
Mr. Bobal.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
my next question is actually for the Comptroller of Customs.
And Mr. Holder would have had
So-
a number of conversations with
Either
me
you're
about this
prophetic
as well.
or
Thank
you're
you.
looking at my notes here. Mr. Holder, you just heard about a lot of movement from, efficiencies and so forth. And my question for you then is, what are the steps taken to harmonize customs regulations across the Caribbean nations to facilitate, as you heard, the smooth cargo movement, specifically with such a service as Connect Caribe and some of the issues that Mr. Pavel just raised?
All right, thank you, Chair. Good morning to all. Thanks for the question. And I think that the harmonization of customs processes across the Caribbean, the framework is there. I'll say this clearly. The framework is there. We have draft CARICOM customs bill and the draft Caribbean customs regulations on hand. I think we have them since 2009, I think. And they are there for the guidance of the development of the requisite customs act and regulations to ensure that they are standardized across the region. Barbados have gone ahead and developed our act along those conditions. We have implemented a 2021 act in December 2021. The act name is Customs Act 2021-34. And we developed that in conjunction with the IMF to ensure that we are actually on the leading edge of clearing processes wherever they are, clearing goods wherever they are. What we found in the region is that some customs organizations have not yet implemented that harmonized custom bill or the harmonized customs regulations. I have also been contacted by some of the customs organizations to share my app with them to help them along the way. So therefore, there need to be more work at the CARICOM level to ensure that the customs in the region adopt the harmonized bill and regulations to ensure that the processes, the forms, the activities are all standardized so that in most cases, not what I said, in most cases, that when you go into a country, you will know what the expectations are. However, you cannot standardize completely. You just are harmonized completely. Different regions have different concerns that we will focus in on to ensure that our remit, which is border protection, is adhered to. And although many of us do not see that as being important, it is one of the fundamental remits of customs, which is border protection, trade facilitation, and this is what we're talking about here today, and revenue collection. So we have to balance those three activities to make sure that we can maximize all three. And that's why you may get variations in some cases from some of the operations that you do in the customs region. But importantly, I would advise that this be some discussion, further discussion with CARICOM with the view of ensuring that the harmonized custom bill and regulation be adopted by the region, by the customs organizations in the region. I must tell you though, that given that harmonized bill and regulation was formalized somewhere in 2009, I think, subject to corrections, that it might be a bit old now, right? Actually, when we started to develop our app, we recognized that there were some elements of it that were outdated, and we had to bring in new elements of that app. So that I would say that the framework is there. It's up to the requisite entities, organizations, whatever, to push to get those harmonized legislation in place.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holder, for that extensive. I hope that answers Gavin's question. But we can segue quickly, since we're talking about legal frameworks and so forth. We can bring in Natalie Sanford here and ask, how can Connect Caribe then navigate the complexities of international maritime trade laws, certainly in the regional laws as well, to optimize the cargo operations and foster stronger trade relationships between Caribbean nations in preparation for when all of these issues are addressed. And, so we really need to get your take on this question.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. To answer your question, I think that in order for Connect Caribe to achieve its objectives, as the controller mentioned, there needs to be a harmonization of laws across the CARICOM member states as it relates to maritime obligations and maritime trade laws. The SOLAS Convention, which is the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, is the cornerstone of ensuring the safety of passengers and cargo and crew on the waters. And so it will be necessary for the participating member countries to have the necessary laws in place to facilitate the movement and ensure the safety of the said mentioned passengers, crew, and cargo. I think to accomplish this, the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas does provide an environment, the perfect environment, I would say, for harmonizing laws across the Caribbean. However, even although the framework is there, it's necessary for the relevant persons and the right persons to be at the table, ensuring that these laws are passed and that they address the concerns that need to be addressed. For instance, operating an enterprise such as this, it is necessary to ensure that crew is properly trained and there's adherence at the international and regional level to the requirements for training. There's also requirements as it relates to insurance to cover liabilities that may occur at sea. Concerning both the movement of cargo and passengers. It is also necessary to ensure that there are regulations in place to deal with environmental concerns. For instance, Connect Caribe must ensure that its operations do not cause harm to the maritime environment, and therefore there are another set of regulations that have to be considered in relation to prevention of pollution of the marine environment. There are several international regulations that need to come into play. And it would be necessary also to consider the laws in the various jurisdictions. As it stands right now, each island has their own laws and regulations. So it would be necessary to review those laws and ensure that there is compliance across the region where Connect Caribe operates.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you,
yes.
Nancy.
Sorry, if
Yes.
I may?
Yes,
One quick
go
comment
ahead.
here. That's a very good point, and that's where I hope that Rams Logistics could really bring some experience and knowledge and assistance there. So a big part of our business is chartering of vessels, so private charters between the islands, to move cargo, to move oil and gas equipment, to move commercial products, even in some instances. And with that, we have become very familiar with the differences that exist in each of the islands for the regulatory framework, for custom clearances, for governmental side of the agencies, and waste management as well. So we bring back waste from Guyana, from Suriname, from Grenada. We have been moving that because in Trinidad, Swimcourt has a fantastic waste disposal facility, very, very top of the line facility. And we try to facilitate that to help out where we could when we already have charters out there. So when we send out charters for one purpose and we abide by everything, of course, and learn the processes, on the back end, we try to pick up things on the way back to see how we could help the other islands that are on the way back to not have it run as an empty leg. But in terms of the harmonization, that is probably the most important point here. And I do agree that we may never reach 100% standardization and harmonization, but we do have a good way to go still. And we really need that governmental support and the individual support from each of the regulatory agencies that exist in the islands. Because if we could make that process a bit more modernized, a bit more digitized, and a bit smoother to move our own cargo from our own people in the Caribbean between each other, we could really unlock some great potential here in the region.
If it might,
you.
I just want to add one thing there.
just in terms of, I just want to make sure that we still on time. So if you're going to add, just, give us 30 seconds follow up. Go ahead. Understand you just give us 30 seconds follow up. Correct.
Quickly,
Yes.
we can't manage what we don't measure. And one of the things that I find is, and this is coming back to what Comptroller Holder would have mentioned, it's not necessarily that the regulations are there, it's that the awareness of this, and this is an initiative that Ms. Wiggins and I would have started maybe about a year ago, where we seek to bring together all of the key stakeholders in the supply chain, from the producers to the consumers and everything in between, from customs to plant health to animal health, to make sure that everyone understands what the process is and understand what the documentation that is required. So while there may be variations between the different territories, the awareness of what is required is there, and having a partner like Rams that actually utilizes the process would be excellent.
Ms. Owen has a follow up.
Yeah, just a quick note and to extension to what you said. I've heard about getting goods into a country 4 days. I've heard about customs processes etc. One of the things that you as Caribe, right? Correct. Connect Caribe must take into consideration is that there are other regulatory agencies at the border, plant quarantine, port health, veterinary services, etc., that can stick up a shipment at the port. Therefore, first of all, in an environment like this, you need to have their participation. That's one. Number two, you need to have them on board. Number three, you need to know their processes, because everybody in here will say the cargo is stuck in customs, right? And then I receive a call that, you're holding up the cargo and my back get broader and broader and I get wheels on my back, right? But the fundamental thing is this: we perform what we call agency duties, and we cannot release certain shipments unless that regulatory agency says all is well. And we have tried to facilitate that process by allowing them to come into Asecure World and clear the goods through Asecure World, where the clearance process is faster. But if you don't have a import license, a cytosanitary certificate, whatever, you are stuck. And in some strange way, those agencies get away by not being called, right? And I have to bear the brunt of Barbados on my back to get the goods out. So it's very important that you, Carrie, take note of that, right? And that you engage those agencies as a matter of urgency, because although Port Health may seem small and they say that shipment can't move, customs cannot release the shipment. All right?
Thank you.
One sec. And we're working on giving you back a little ease up to get less blame. And going back to what Gavin said about the processes, that's the beauty of the technology, right? So what we have begun to do is when you go to, from as a customer perspective, to place an order, regardless of the commodity, specific to the commodity, specific to the country of export and import, we have started to attach the processes online now for the customer going to place that order. So they know which one of the agencies and regulatory bodies that they need approval from, which license, who they need to go to. They know if they miss something now, FDA come in and that's a whole different story and holding things up, and it's not on customs at that point. So we are trying to tackle it at every stage there. Of course, still a work in progress, but we are trying to give the consumers and the suppliers more access to easy information in their process so we could help alleviate some of those issues.
You is that one, and sorry.
What I want to say is this is exactly the questions that I have here, they're actually answering. So I love when the panel flows according to plan. So go ahead, sir.
So what would help you? I look at your dashboard and I see you have customs, then again, customs again, but you need to drill down even further and look at those other agencies where the process is at, if those agencies are important. But most of all, you need to have on your dashboard somewhere, what are the requirements for each agency to process a good, so that any customer can look to see what is required. And if that is done, it solves part of your problem in terms of your customers not having goods being stuck at the border.
You see how important it is to have those persons at the table who has the solutions and can speak directly so that you can make the necessary tweaks. And when we begin to roll out at the last quarter, we can mitigate a lot of these issues ahead of time. So thank you, Mr. Holden. Thank you, Brendan, for that contribution. I want to bring in here Althea Wiggins. She is Special Envoy to the Prime Minister. Do you have any farmers in the house? Anybody into farming? Okay, great. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So they'll be interested to hear this question, Ms. Wiggins. I have about 2 or 3 questions for you, but the first one is, how do you envision Connect Caribe working with governments in ensuring the sustainability and growth of agriculture exports within the Caribbean? And what role does government policy play within such a symbiotic relationship with Connect Caribe? and the vision and the mandate that your office has.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. So far, I have learned so much today in this forum in terms of what happens with shipping. You know, because you have a title, it does not mean that you know anything. And I really have learned quite a bit. And of course, someone like Mr. Holder is a very important man in this country. But what I want to say is that historically, we had the federal maple and the federal palm that were gifted to the federal government by the Canadian government, and they would have operated cargo and passengers in the region. And as you know, the history of the Federation when it failed and so on. And act was passed in Parliament to form the Visco Act that looked after these ships after the Federation had failed. And essentially, these ships then were adopted through a company that became an agency of CARICOM. So as you know, Ambassador, there are many CARICOM agencies within the region. And I believe it would take, the CARICOM Heads of Government Conference is coming up again. And it would be worth floating the idea of Connect Caribe becoming a new agency of CARICOM. And by that, I mean, once that has become a CARICOM agency, you then can have harmonized legislation within the region. Most of you would have known that for World Cup cricket, you made the region one domestic space. And if you can have harmonized legislation, these are areas that I'm mentioning that can be fleshed out, and have all the territories within the region. We talk about single market and single economy, having the same rules and regulations in each territory, so that when the ship lands in Barbados, Mr. Holder would not be getting these lashes across his back to say that the SPS issues for Barbados have not been acknowledged or adhered to. And the SPS issues, as people see, as one of the big barriers to trade within the region. And because you heard the talk that we import all these goods extra regionally, and they seem to come in without any issues in Barbados and the region. But as soon as you have to bring in goods from the region, they are subjected to all these SPS rules. Why are you putting us under this type of pressure? So if governments can more or less pass legislation, harmonized legislation within the region and standards, and make sure they're adhered to, I believe it would assist in regional trade. In terms of other issues, we can look at setting up public-private sector partnerships to streamline resources so the government can have one part and Connect Caribe can do their part as well. And you can have regular stakeholder engagements within the region, because each and every person in here has a different experience. So it would be like a town hall meeting, and persons would more or less say what their issues are in terms of what your responsibilities are, which you can then bring back to the regional governments to make sure, because let me tell you, life is not perfect in anything you do. And I would say to you that anytime there are issues, it always helps you to aim higher, so you don't get it right the first time. So there are a number of issues that I think that working with CARICOM, that you could more or less, and I feel really good about Connect Caribe. I believe it is going to be a success. But like I said, you have to engage CARICOM which is the governments of the Caribbean, and they would try to remove all those bureaucratic hurdles that are within each territory. And you have to remember that various territories have different cultures. And people would say, but we let this item pass through. How comes in Barbados, y'all are putting up all these barriers? So one of the things when you go to the heads of government, you talk about that, the issues, standardizing and harmonizing a lot of the agreements and the arrangements and have them implemented in terms of trade. And the other issues, obviously, that the controller spoke about as well, in terms of harmonization. So it's a lot of work, Ambassador, that has to be done and has to be put in place for these things to happen. And I can tell you, each and every one of us here will learn. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that contribution. I still want to speak to another matter with relative to farmers, but let me bring in, we'll come back to that, Ms. Wiggins, but let me bring in here the Barbados Postal Service on the question of efficiency when it comes to mail. You also have a responsibility as well in terms of the mandate for timely, reliable, and economical delivery of mail. So we want to hear about some of the challenges experienced with the Barbados Postal Service, and then by extension, the Caribbean Postal Union in delivering on its mandate, as I said, timely, reliable, and economic delivery. Because as I like to say, we are all in this together, and this is the purpose of Connect Caribe. So we're not leaving out any entity that is part of economic development and efficiency. So we want to hear from the Barbados Postal Service, and what are some of the challenges you're experiencing, and how do you foresee a strategic partnership with Connect Caribe addressing some of these challenges with respect to the movement of mail across the Caribbean region?
Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This morning, I don't sit here representing the Barbados Postal Service. I actually am representing the Caribbean Postal Union today, which encompasses all of the posts in the region. The composition of mail within the last 15 years is no longer letters. It is a lot of small packets. And whereas RAMS is looking for container loads, we are looking for packets. We are working with other agencies throughout the region to make it easier for small and micro businesses to get their products to the market, not only regionally, but internationally. We have come upon a snag where within this region, with the demise of a former air carrier, we have lost a lot of that connectivity. Worldwide, mail travels on commercial passenger planes. And with the advent of COVID, mail worldwide shut right down. At the level of the Universal Postal Union, we are working with the World Customs Organization to ensure that we can now have mail transported by other logistical methods. So we've started back up with air, but we're also going to road, rail, and maritime. When I joined the post office a few weeks ago, they still had mail being transported within the region by vessel. International mail came in by vessel. The CARICOM Secretariat, in association with the CPU and the Universal Postal Union, have been working on a think tank for about the last 3-4 years to get the regional air carriers to sign on to having improved connectivity throughout the region. When I heard of Connect Caribe, I reached out because I saw this as a very interesting opportunity for the posts within the region. And for that meeting, I actually invited the Secretary General of the Caribbean Postal Union to be at that initial meeting. That is how important I felt about it. And for smaller businesses, who are not operating at the container level. You're just dealing with small items, beads, chains, necklaces, small bottles of pepper sauce. You can ship 6 bottles. And what Connect Caribe offers is the ability to do it at a cheaper rate than sending it by air. But we can have a timeline where you can expect to have your things moved throughout the region. And that, I think, is where we can have that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Could you give us the, because obviously you're not Miss Busby, so can you, for those watching online, could you just give your full name and your role at the Barbados Postal Service and the Union for the Media as well?
Yes, indeed, I am not Miss Joanne Busby, Postmaster General. My name is Cecil Benjamin. I am the Deputy Postmaster General with responsibility for international postal affairs and business development. And so in that role, I am the representative for Barbados at the Universal Postal Union for all of its meetings at the CPU, at the UPU, sorry, at the headquarters in Bern. I am also a UPU consultant for the region where I conduct on-site audits, both for postal security and for a project we have going in the region called the Operational Readiness for E-commerce. So we have certain things in common. For a number of years, about 7 years, I was head of IT, but now I have migrated now into dealing with business and international postal affairs.
Thank you, sir.
I must say, amazing to accomplish all that in a couple of weeks. And
I try.
Wow, that's a precursor to efficiency. It just needs the support of Connect Caribe. Yes, sir.
so today I would have focused a lot on the container aspect of things on that level, but it is not only that level as well, right? So what we could probably do, I could probably put together something that we could share to the wider group after this to give a bit more detail and breakdown into the other levels as well. Because we do go down to the small level of transporting the beads or injection needles. And we have been doing that for a while now. But again, due to the time constraints today and the dashboard, the market, etc., the focus was just on the container level and how we could digitize that LCL side of the business and bring it together. But yes, it does go down to the very minute levels as well.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Just 1 minute. And as I was saying to the ambassador during our meeting, all of the posts in this region, we use the same software platform. It's actually an international platform, but we all share the same platform. It integrates with Executor World. So once you integrate with me, you've integrated with all of the posts in the regions, starting from Bermuda in the north, down to Guyana, Suriname in the south.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Belize in the west, Barbados is the furthest east, all the islands in the chain.
And we directly link with Executor as well. So it's just a full direct end-to-end link there. So that's great.
All of these silos and Connect Caribe at the central. So you see why this forum is very important. I want to take 10 minutes from the break just to get in 2 more questions. And those questions are with respect to farming, and we want to get a quick response from Ambassador Thomas. Ms. Wiggins, for the farmers that are present here, what are the potential economic benefits for farmers, and how is government likely to ensure the readiness in accessing an 18 million Caribbean market through Connect Caribe?
Thank you for that question. And I did research on it and I'm going to read it. You're going to have, farmers will have increased market access. They will have better access to regional markets, enabling them to sell their produce beyond local boundaries. This can lead to higher demand and potentially better prices for their goods. It also reduces transportation costs. A reliable and efficient ferry service can reduce transportation costs compared to other means like air freight or long-distance trucking. This cost saving can benefit farmers directly by lowering their overall expenses. It also enhances the freshness and the quality of the vegetables. Perishable goods can reach markets faster, maintaining freshness and quality. This is crucial for produce like fruits and vegetables and dairy, leading to higher customer satisfaction and reduced waste. You can also get diversification of products. Access to new markets might encourage farmers to diversify their crop and livestock production to meet all the needs of the region. You can also get economic growth and employment. This increased activity in the agricultural sector can spur local economic growth, create jobs, and stimulate related industries such as packaging, processing, and distribution.
Thank you very much. I felt like I was on a TV program. What a good plug. I wonder if you used to do voiceovers in another life.
I've never done an advertisement in my life.
Somebody might be thinking of hiring you. Dr. Thomas, I want to close off before with one final question for you in relative to agriculture, and then we take a group photo for, to make sure that we prove that we had some serious discussions. And we'll break after this last question and come back for the travel session at 11:30. Ambassador Thomas, how can Connect Caribe support government initiatives aimed at boosting agriculture economy in the region? Because we know that there's a 25 by 25 reduction in the food import bill, and it's been touted, it's been spoken a lot. With now Connect Caribe coming on board, how do you are aiming to support government initiatives to tackle that food import bill?
The two major things. Okay, first, by our e-commerce platform, technology platform called Connect Agriculture. So Connect Agriculture is going to list farmers and also distributors. Example, when I was at CIF, met so many different companies. There's one that does rice. They want to distribute rice across the region. Now, so what we're going to do is on that platform, have the different agricultural distributors, have the different, farmers, verified farmers, and we work with the government and the private sector agency in that country to do that. Okay, once we have that, we will then link them with buyers. So this platform would have a list so that buyers in the region can actually access the information. And then the cargo platform, the cargo platform will then connect with the shipping division. And we are very close to doing a ship inspection for a specifically chosen vessel that can handle agri-cargo. And what we like about it is that it doesn't have to be inside containers. So it can be used by the smaller operator. So those really are the two areas. One, the vessel, and two, the actual connecting the farmers and the distributors with the actual buyers across the region. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. I want to open the floor in these last 5 minutes to any questions that you may have. Two persons, if you raise your hand quickly, going once, go ahead. You can use the mic here. And if there's another question, you can stand behind the gentleman, and those two questions we would engage. Thank you. And you can state who you are addressing the question to.
All right, good morning. You can hear me? Good morning, everyone.
Yes, good
Thank
morning.
you. It's a pleasure. My question is concerning agriculture, since I'm one of those persons who's involved in agriculture. My question deals with the concerns that farmers have about insuring the products, as well as having that protection when we encounter challenges or loss of crops. Is there some kind of system that's going to be set up where we can, as a farmer, even locally and regionally, be offered now insurance? And then when we look at even producing our own products, the high cost of feeds and different things that we use, chemicals that we use in developing and growing these products, is there some concession then regionally that will be offered to farmers so that, we talk about the reduction of costs in transport, but we need reduction of costs in other areas as well. So this is my main concern. And my question is to that is whether the ministries and governments are going to take us seriously now to see that we can make a greater impact and a greater contribution to the income of the country and make provisions really for farmers so that we can truly succeed and truly come into farming and be able to grow and to develop and sustain our families for generations to come.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so I want to get a legal perspective on that from Natalie and also from Ms. Wiggins. And if any of the other panelists, especially when it comes to supply chain, Ms. Gavin can give us a very brief response to those questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think that the question which the gentleman has asked is a very important one that needs to be addressed. But I believe those issues raised would have to be addressed at the policy level. They concern questions as to pricing and insurance and requirements for meeting those concerns. And unless the structure, the legal framework is in place to deal with those concerns, or there is policy at the regional level that deals with those concerns, they're not questions that can be answered in this forum.
Okay.
Per se.
Thank you. Hey, do you want to respond, Ms. Wiggins?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Julianne
Could you
Hinkson.
stand, doctor?
Sure.
Yes, thanks.
My name is Dr. Hinkson, and I have consulted with the Connect Caribe group as it relates to agriculture. My response to that is not directly what we are looking to do initially, but I believe that as we come together as an agricultural group across the region, that agricultural insurance will be one of the things that we will look at. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
go
though.
ahead.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hinkson essentially answered the question because just speaking in a personal capacity, sometimes you wear two hats. But I do believe that in terms of some of the suggestions for the success of Connect Caribe, that government could be offering incentives to farmers in terms of low interest loans, etc. But in terms of how I see the insurance industry works, even with respect to the fishing boats, let's say in Barbados in the fishing industry, I believe, with respect, sir, that it would be incumbent on individuals to get their own insurance rather than depending on a regional government to put that in place for you. I think what the governments will do would offer the platforms and the incentives, but what farmers can do, let's say, if you were dealing with Barbados, would be to get together and get group insurance at a reduced cost. But it is not something that, in my humble opinion, that can be legislated from the top. I believe it's a case where the farmers themselves have to get together and try to buy their insurance at whatever price. And Dr. Hinkson would have done her studies on those that maybe she can share with me and others and with CARICOM, so that at least farmers throughout the region would know and understand. But I would say to you from now, you should look to get insurance, because I don't think that government should be, they don't have deep pockets, they don't have endless pockets, that every time there's a catastrophic loss. Yes, we know all the issues surrounding climate change and the resilience that we are trying to build in, but as you can see, when there is an act of God, whether it be via CrowdStrike or else, there's nothing the government can do. Because sometimes we think that we're building in redundancies for most things. You know, you seem to think that you look at a list and say, we can do this and make sure this never happens again. It will. You can never buy insurance to guarantee nothing in life. And that's my personal response. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we can go on to the next question.
Before we go on to the next question, piggybacking off of what Natalie mentioned, I do believe it is on that policy level, on governmental level. But what I think we could contribute here is a conduit to getting there faster. So with more trade, with an increase in exports, with an increase in production for that period of time, we now provide the avenue to open the door to have those discussions on a higher level, I would say, and increase the chances and likelihood of getting those sort of avenues open up for the farmers.
I'd want to add there as well. One of the things that we're looking at, so I hold a number of hats, one of those hats being the investment and trade representative for the Guyana Office for Investment that's based here in Barbados, responsible for export promotion and investment. And we're working with our farmers in Guyana as well. This is one of the issues that has come up. What I find where there is need for research and development is not necessarily at the farm level, but in the instrument that is crafted by the industry to provide that coverage. And in some cases, that instrument is not available. Right. So in designing a solution, it has to come from consultation, obviously, with the farmers and in what they're seeking to do, but also what they're willing to pay, because insurance isn't free. Having said that as well, government can play a role by creating policies to create a more enabling environment, not only for the farmer, but for also those that are providing the insurance instruments. So from that respect, I believe there's definitely this forum has highlighted the need for that. There is a bit more research that needs to get into it rather than say, okay, we're not there as yet and it's your responsibility and not our responsibility. We need to ventilate the problem and make sure that we put forward an appropriate policy recommendation coupled with tangible, workable commercial solutions for the insurance industry. Because much like a farmer, you're not going to go into business to lose money. No insurance company goes into business to lose money. And I think we can all agree on that here.
Thank you, Gavin. Could you tell us your name, maybe what association you're with, and you can direct your question to one specific.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Neil Critchlow. I'm representing Goddard Shipping and Seafair Agencies. And actually, the question was going to Mr. Mohammed. He's on it. Because as a shipping agent, a port agent, cargo agent, and I also have qualification in port state control. So one of the questions I have is about the turnaround time of this vessel or vessels to keep up that scheduling. If you have big expectations for the volume, not only of cargo, but of crew and passengers and everything like that. I've been looking at the website, pretty impressive. So the question I have is the turnaround time from the time you arrive in port, whatever port of call that may be, to the time of departure, and controlling the flow of not just the human traffic, but the actual cargo. What are some of the plans you have as it relates to that movement and to maintain timelines so that passengers will get on, and then the cargo would be, especially the cargo, would be moved in an effective manner, an efficient manner. Thank you.
I think I could probably spend an hour answering that question. So afterwards, I'll be happy to chat with you. But at this time, I'd like to give our VP of Regional Operations, Rudy Rampasad, who is here with me as well. I'd like to bring him into the conversation to provide a short answer to that. And afterwards, we could always follow up because we have built many models with different vessels for different capacity sizes, with different route combinations to see what would be the most efficient running of that, to combine the turnaround time, size of the vessel, amount of containers on the vessel, and the amount of passengers on the vessel specific to each of the islands. So we could share that with you after the fact, but for now, I'll let Rudy just address it temporarily.
Good morning, everyone. And just quickly, Neil, so from what we've been doing, for the country so far in ports, so far we've done, with Ask
Sorry, Rudy, can you stand so those online can see? Thank you.
Sure, sorry.
Okay, good.
So Neil, just to that point, what we've done with our software, our technology, the idea is that with Ascuda World, and then we have with the maritime system, the Ascuda single unit, is where we do manifest 24 hours before arrival at a minimum. So we allow that declaration of containers, what is in the containers. So customs also have access to that. You have port health, port facilities, immigration, everyone there also. But in addition to that, we also, based on what we've been looking at so far in feasibility studies, understanding the operations at each port based on their infrastructure, the equipment, and understanding how many containers could be offloaded per hour, etc. Through that. So what we've been doing is managing routing based on that also. So certain countries, we will have a higher volume of containers probably going into Guyana or Trinidad, where there's a larger buying volume. So we understand based on their container offload, what time we want to enter to understand what is the best time for us. We also have had a look at understanding when commercial liners come in. So for example, in the region here, we have CM and CGM coming in on a Thursday and a Friday into Trinidad, then going to Guyana on a Sunday, and then coming back up in the routings. We don't want to clash on those days, right? So the idea is that we understand on those days where those liners come in, then we will understand, okay, based on that, what would be the best day for us to come in to get better facilities at the ports. So we have a few things like that, and I'll be happy to have a conversation after on how we are. The key for us is we want to reduce costs, right? So how quickly we get in and out of a port, turnaround will be very important for us. Similar to like an aircraft, right? If it sits there for an hour or more, you pay. So the idea is that how we get that in and out faster based on a few criteria we've already created, and I'll share right after. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rudy of Ramps Logistics.